Hey guys, I have a very exciting and very special announcement. Are you ready? Only in theaters. Memorial Day, May 25th, The Machine, the movie comes out. Only in theaters. The Machine. If you want information, go to themachine.movie. You can sign up to get updates. You can watch the trailer. They'll let you know when tickets go on sale or are there any promotions that are happening with the movie. But how exciting. I mean, Bert told this story so long ago on Rogan, and it's just become this amazing movie. So I hope you come watch it with us. We will definitely be there Memorial Day weekend, and I hope you will be too. So again, go to themachine.movie to sign up to get updates. Thank you so much for supporting. What an amazing journey. And oh, by the way, how crazy is this? May 25th was mine and Bert's first date 21 years ago. And May 25th is the date this movie is premiering. I can't believe that. That's so crazy. I think that's called Kismet. I don't know. I don't even really know what that word means. But anyway, go to themachine.movie and sign up to get updates and come watch the Machine movie with us in theaters. Thank you. So I am so excited about today's episode. I have a new friend. Her name is Lené. Our daughters, Isla and Leanna, are really good friends. And Lené was over at my house and I asked her what she did for a living. And she is a professor of aging, which I was like, what is that? And will you come on my podcast and explain it to me? So she did. And it was such a good conversation. I learned so much in this conversation about what she teaches, the different aspects of aging that she teaches, about the kind of like the biological piece, the emotional, the social, the mental, like every piece of aging. It was such a good story. She talked about her path from high school to where she is now, because, I'm always interested in how people get where they are today. She's taking a big trip. So we talked about her trip that she's going on in just a couple days, which is super exciting. I do reference a book that I couldn't remember the name of in the episode. It's called The Menopause Manifesto. So once you get to that part of the episode, that's the book I couldn't remember. But I personally think Lené should write a book. I think she needs to write a book about this kind of like communication, intergenerational communications book, which is one of the classes that she teaches as an elective at UCLA. Anyway, it was a long conversation and it was a very, very good one. And I'm so excited to share it with you. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Thank you for your emails. Thank you for sharing my podcast with anybody you think might enjoy it. If you'd like to send me an email, you can go to birdieboyproductions.com. And I can't wait for you to hear this conversation because it was really good. And I'm super excited about all the things we talked about because I learned a lot. So hopefully you will also enjoy this episode with Lené. You ready for Christmas?
Oh, never. I got my tree up.
Oh, never.
Never. I'm like notorious for wrapping gifts the morning of,
Of Christmas?
Yeah.
Are you really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you're busy.
Yeah. I'm still grading. So until I'm done with grading, I don't really, and then we're leaving the country on Monday.
You are? Where are you going?
Egypt.
You're going to Egypt?
Egypt. Yes. And Leanna and Amanda and Louis and 23 of his Egyptian cousins.
What?
We're our own tour group.
That's amazing.
I know.
I just said on a podcast I would like to go to Egypt. I think it was on a podcast. I was just telling it to somebody.
Yeah.
That's so exciting.
I know. It's epic.
Yeah.
And so the girls are with their dad. Mm-hmm. So, we're going to just have like a laid back Christmas and then they'll come over and we'll panic because they won't be ready. And everything will be closed on Christmas.
Exactly. And you leave Monday.
Oh yeah, Monday afternoon. Yeah, it's going to be a shit show.
Yeah. Yeah, that's intense.
I know.
How exciting though.
I know, I'm so
excited.
So
where are you going in Egypt?
Well, don't be too surprised. Cairo.
Yes.
But we are going on a a 3-day Nile cruise.
Wow.
And then, we'll do several nights in Cairo before and after, well, not several, a night or two in Cairo, and then a night or two in Cairo again.
So what language do they speak in Egypt?
Arabic.
Okay.
Yeah. And I won't be communicating.
But now your boyfriend's name is
Lewis,
and
but he's full on Egyptian.
And he speaks Arabic?
No. He speaks a few words, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, yeah. No. Yeah. All right. So he was born and raised here. So he's only been to Egypt for 10 days about 30 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But his cousins, oh my gosh, literally he drew the map for me and I sent it to the girls. I'm like, this one and this one are around your age. This one and this one are around your age.
How crazy.
I know. I'm so excited.
What's the impetus for this trip? Just for fun,
his cousin started planning a trip and then another cousin wanted to go. And this was like a year ago. And so we've been planning this for a year. And you're not even going to believe this, but one of his cousins, her parents died. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And they must have left her some money because she wants to pay $1,500 towards each person's expenses.
What?
Yeah, I know. Who does that?
Wow.
Even now, I thought that's fine if they're like, I'm not even engaged.
Yeah.
You know, and then me and my kids.
Yeah.
I told her she's like the kindest person I've ever met.
Yeah,
I don't know who does that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's very generous.
It is.
Holy cow.
I know, right?
How exciting.
Yeah. And I didn't have to do anything. I just, I have to pay this or I have to do that. They planned all the tours. So, and I'm going to be there with Egyptians.
That's
already
amazing.
Bought 3 hijabs.
You have?
I can't wait.
I have so many questions. I don't even know. How do you travel? I guess you'll be with people who speak Arabic. So, relatives or?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure some of his cousins, somebody speaks Arabic. But I'm also sure that, somebody in Egypt has to speak English.
Yeah, I'm sure, yeah.
But, that's the least of my worries,
I know. I went to Vietnam and
that's so cool.
See,
I've never been to Asia anywhere.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
I went with my friend Sandy, who's Chinese. She speaks Cantonese, which is not Vietnamese at all. And luckily, she had a friend there who was Vietnamese, who lives in Ho Chi Minh City, who was like our tour guide. And when we tried to speak English to people, it was not happening. So there was no English in Vietnam that we could find. And I don't completely blame them.
No, right.
But,
I know.
But yeah, I oftentimes go, how would we have done this trip without someone who spoke the language? We couldn't have done it. I don't know how we could have done it.
No, you're right. I'm with a herd,
That's true.
So
it was just the two of us.
I don't have anything. But what's so funny is the girl's dad's a little checked out. And he actually thought I was just taking them to Egypt. He was shocked when he found out that we're going with Lewis and his boys and his whole, I don't even know how much he knows. He just knows for sure we're going with Lewis. And he told the girls, I thought your mom was just taking you to Egypt. Yeah, Yeah, because I'm so worldly.
Yeah. How crazy.
I know.
Oh, that's going to be so much fun.
I know.
How long are you there?
10 days. I mean, the whole trip, including,
flights.
Practically a whole day of flying.
How long's the flight? And how do you get there?
Well, the way we're going, which is working out great with this Arctic blast coming down the country.
It's going to push you.
Yeah. It's or we'd be stuck somewhere. But we're flying to Phoenix on Monday.
Okay.
Phoenix to Heathrow.
Okay.
Heathrow to Cairo.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah. And then all in all, it's close to 24 hours with layovers and flight time, But, I've traveled internationally before, not that long, but I'm prepared. The girls, this is going to be the funniest thing to watch them.
Yeah.
Not to mention there won't be packed in time, but the whole drama scene, they are just going to be out of their element.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Have you ever traveled to anything like this?
Phoenix. That's it. I've taken them to the Grand Canyon.
That's not the same. It's not the same. It's going to be culture shock. You're right.
Huge.
Yeah.
They can't even, they can't even fathom. It's like
Yeah.
trying to tell someone what it's going to be like to be a parent when they're pregnant.
Yeah.
You know, they just won't get it until they're there.
Until they're
And so
pregnant.
they are going to realize that everything is relative.
It's so true. You know, the first time we took the girls, they had been kind of all over English speaking places, but we took them to Bali. And Bali was amazing. Bert had a tour in Australia, and we were like, well, let's go to Bali the week before and then go to Australia, and we'll stay a couple days in Australia and then come home. I mean, if you're going that far.
Right.
And Bert, you know, when he's touring, he's in a city a day. So it's not conducive to like kids enjoying themselves. You're just like hustle, 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 hustle.
Yeah.
So the Bali was just a straight vacation. And then he had like 1 or 2 days off in Australia, and then he hit the road and we came home. So I remember a couple things about experiencing Bali with them. One was it did not compute in the moment what they were seeing. Like I could tell that they were seeing stuff, but they don't compute it like I do. I'm like, oh my God, this statue's been here since the beginning of time. Can you believe these people are in this wrongs and this is crazy? And you could see them like, it just wasn't going deep down. But now when we talk about it, it's processed, right? Years later. And they're like,
because they're more educated.
They are. They're more mature.
You're more mature.
And their brain is just, they can just process it now in a different way. So I just remember driving through Bali going, they do not get it. They are not getting what they're seeing. And I thought some naive part of me thought that they would, like, not entirely get it, but sort of get it. And they weren't like selfish kids who were like, oh, this is great. It wasn't like that. I wanted it to hit them in some deep way. Like, these are the pyramids. Do you understand what you're looking at?
Right.
And they go, yeah, got it, Mom. And I'm like, no, you don't get it.
You don't get it.
You actually don't get it.
These are handmade.
Exactly. And they've been here for 5,000 years.
Yeah.
But they did. Now we went to Italy in the summer, and they had a completely different experience of that, I think just because of maturity. So your kids are old enough that they may actually get it. But I remember watching.
Oh, yeah. But how far apart are Isla and Georgia?
2 years.
2 years.
Uh-huh.
So Leanna and Amanda are 3.5.
Okay.
And 4 grades.
Okay.
You know.
So how old's Amanda?
Oh, she's 12.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah.
So she's about the age when we went to Bali.
Yeah. I think, I mean, Leanna is, you know, like her favorite subject is history.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, she'll love it.
Yeah. So she is going
She'll
to
be
eat
fine.
it up. But Amanda, I don't know, but I think that alone is going to be fun.
Yeah.
Just to watch
It will be.
them out of their element and feel a little vulnerable.
Yeah. And they'll have each other. You know, that's the thing too. When we were in Bali, the girls really like bonded.
Ooh,
You
that
know.
would blow my mind.
Why? They don't bond. They're not.
No, they're
No.
like two ships passing in the night. You know, they went through the phase where they fought. And now they just stay out of each other's path for most of, but Mandy does the little sister thing. She goes and takes things. And even though she gets in trouble, she'll do it again.
Yes.
And Leanna just acts like it's, breaking the 10 commandments. And
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I was a little sister. I did the exact same
Yeah,
thing.
right.
This is little sister.
The little sister at my
Yeah.
house does it
Yeah.
to me and to her sister, where she'll just, Georgia came home and she was like, someone's been in my closet. And I went, You think it was me? You think this body can fit in that body's clothes? No, it's not me. There's only one body in this house that closet is applicable to, and it's not mine.
Yeah.
So this morning I went to put my makeup on. All of my makeup brushes are gone. They're gone. And I'm like, there's only one person in this house that would do that. It's
Yeah.
the little sister.
It's
the
the little
Isla Grace.
sister. Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to wring her neck. I couldn't even put my makeup on. I used the applicator that came with the product.
oh,
the little bitty brush that comes with a little bitty. I was like, oh, I'm going to do my best here. Here we go. I should have gone up and woke her up, but I was in a hurry. I was like, I don't have time to go upstairs. I just got to get it. And I barely put any on, but whatever.
Yes.
So I'm dying to talk to you. First of all, you're a professor.
Yeah. Last I checked.
Last you checked. That's so cool.
Yeah. Well, you know what's even cooler
What?
is so on the downside,
Yeah.
I am 55.
Yeah.
So I could have been a full professor for, a decade now. And I'm not, because I had kids.
Yeah.
And I thought being a mother was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
And then I met Lewis. I'm jumping ahead a lot and everything. And he says, it's okay. You're a fun professor. So I am a fun, but not full professor.
What does that mean? I don't know what that means, not a full professor.
Right. Because these are things that only matter when you're in that world.
Right.
It's just a hierarchy. So you
Does it mean like you're not tenured? Or
it could, but it doesn't, because tenure comes at associate professor. So I'm an associate professor.
Okay.
Before you get tenure, you're an assistant professor.
Okay.
And then when you get promoted later on, which the one that really matters is tenure, because they can't fire you.
Yeah, right.
And, within reason.
Yeah.
I mean, they've found ways to do it if you're really bad. But yeah, so it's all hierarchy. And then once you become a full professor, and in the UC system, there are steps. So within each of those categories. And so the really big, enchilada is becoming a full professor 6.
Okay.
And
is there 5, 4, 3, 2, 1?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And that means what?
It just means that you have reached the pinnacle of promotions. After that, you're probably headed towards retirement. And then you can look to become an emeritus.
What is that? Yeah. Oh my gosh, this is a whole world I don't even understand.
Of course, because it only makes sense in the academic world,
Yeah, yeah.
And so
emeritus like a superhero status? Sort of?
Sure. You can...
I'd
probably say if you get not the Pulitzer, you win a Pulitzer or a Nobel Peace Prize, that would certainly put you in the Hall of Fame of the university. You know? Yeah. So there's always something higher, always.
But what does that do for you? Just gives you a label? Does it give you like speaking engagements, or is it just like
you could be doing all of that
before, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just being a professor, as it turns out, is a very nice profession. People, do kind of go, oh, you're a professor. And, they tend to call you professor or doctor. So there's status with that. And that happens like the day you get your PhD,
Got it.
But the rest is ego. It really is.
Right.
It's more money, more status, more money, more status, bigger ego.
Yeah.
And that is what it gets you. Maybe you're in, it's a social thing like anything. So I think once you get a reputation, it's easier to get papers published and grants funded.
It's a system.
And it's a business.
Yeah.
It's a business like everything else.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what are you a professor of?
That is such a good question. So let's see. On paper, my degrees are in public health.
Okay. Public health.
But then once you get a job, you are in a department and a school, maybe a division, department, school. And so right now, and for a while, like 18 years, I've had a joint appointment in the division of geriatrics medicine in the School of Medicine. And I also have my main appointment, you have primary appointment, is in social welfare.
Okay.
In the School of Public Affairs, which is not public health. It's a different animal.
Well, so then I think I know what public affairs is, but will you tell me what you think public affairs is? So
that's good. I'm going to tell you what I think it is, because I don't have that definition memorized. But no, seriously, it is like, public health is about everything related to the health of the public.
Yeah.
So affairs is just everything related to affairs of the public, from politics and policy to urban planning to the welfare state. I mean, everything.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought it was. Everything not related to health. It's like everything else.
And it can pertain to health, but that's just a piece of it. Whereas public health is all health. But what's interesting is health is so affected by other aspects of our lives, like our social aspects. So that's also embedded in public health.
Right.
Yeah. So basically, it's simpler if you get your degrees in psychology and then you go into a department of psychology and then you're a professor of psychology, and it's like simple.
Yes.
But when you get your undergrad degree in psychology, then you get your master's and doctorate in public health, then you get employed in social welfare and medicine. You know, I think what they want to do is call you a professor of social welfare or a professor of medicine. I don't know that because that's my secondary appointment. I used to be there in my main appointment.
In medicine?
Yeah. So it's complicated. So I'm just very interdisciplinary.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
So I always like to explore a journey, right? Because where I started is not where I ended up. And I think a lot of people are that way. Very few people go, well, maybe not very few, but sometimes it's hard for you to go, I want to be a nurse. I get a degree as a nurse. I stay a nurse and I'm in that one track for my whole life and I'm happy and I'm fulfilled and I'm great.
Right.
My dad did that.
Yeah.
I want to be a mechanic. He became a mechanic. He owned his own shop. He retired, semi-retired, now works in someone else's shop. Wouldn't do anything else. That wasn't my journey. My journey was like a pinball machine. I went boom, 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 boom until I found my lane.
I love the visual.
Right?
Yeah.
It's what it was like.
Yeah.
Is that what your journey was like? Like, did you graduate high school? I'm sure you didn't graduate high school. Or did you graduate high school and say, I want to be a professor? Or what did you want to do that got you to where you are?
Yeah. Boy, you're really good. You should have a podcast. These are such great questions.
Well, I think people listening this is the way I felt when I was in the pinball machine.
Yeah.
Is that I should have that direct route. My dad had it. Both his sisters, one was a nurse, one was a teacher. That's all they wanted to do their whole childhood, all three of them. And that's what they did. And so I'm going, I don't really know what I want. And I'm just bouncing all over the place. So it made me feel really bad about myself until I figured out where I was. So I think it's very helpful for people to hear, you know, I started out going to clown school and I ended up a bartender. And, you know, this is how I got from A to B.
Right.
And I'm really happy here. So the A to B is valuable in and of itself. And you shouldn't just know B all the time. Some people do.
Yes.
And that's lovely. So what was your journey from?
All right. So here we go. I'm going to give you the short one first, and then, more of the journey story. So if I look back from where I am today to where I started, it's like a straight line.
Is it?
Yeah. Straight line.
Fabulous.
It's like, wow, she knew, she probably was one of those people that like when people asked her, where is she going to be in 5 years? She's like, I'm going to be this and I'm going to have that and I'm going to do this and that. Okay. That's a complete facade. It didn't happen like that at all for me. So basically the one thing that was clear to me when I graduated from high school was I wanted to learn and go to college. And I had always been a good student, but not like the 4.0 student.
Yeah.
So I was just gonna,
you were
go to college.
Probably.
I'm very curious.
Yeah.
Very curious.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was undeclared for 2 years as an undergrad, declared biopsych, stayed with it. And then I talked to a professor in my psych department who explained to me what getting a PhD was. And I thought, well, that's just great. I'm going to do that because I want to learn everything. So if I do that, I'll know everything.
Right.
So, but in between that conversation and applying, I applied to schools of public health because I fell in love with genetics and wanted to be a genetic counselor. So I applied to schools. I did not get in the one school at Berkeley that was a genetic counseling program. So I just went down to UCLA for 2 years to do my master's in public health in another area. And then while I'm there, I changed from the psychology version of public health the first quarter to biostat. And I loved math. And so I did that. And then a year into that, I was like, okay, I want to go get my PhD. And I'm not sure exactly in what. I had some mentors. So I applied to social welfare PhD programs. And then the professor in public health that I had been working with said, well, I'll write you a letter for social welfare, but why don't you just stay here and work with me and get your PhD in public health? So I got accepted into all those social welfare programs and I stayed in public health. So you see, there's a little bit of, you know, like not really knowing. And along the way, starting in college is when I started being interested in older adults and everything. So that was already set. And so then I did my doctorate. I had, rumors are when you're doing your doctorate, it's a nightmare, right? It's like horrible. A lot of people. That was one of the best chapters of my life.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
Because people think of getting a PhD as a sole activity, but it's not. It's like a partnership with your main mentor. And I had the most amazing mentor. And he was the ultimate in supporting my creativity and intellect. And it was not just a shadow of his. And he empowered me, you know.
That's wonderful.
Yes. So I did what I wanted to do and had so much fun. I mean, I was stressed. I kept journals. I look back, I'm like, oh yeah, I was pretty stressed. But I mean, it was an amazing time.
Right.
And so at that point, I was like, well, you know, his name was Steve. And I said, Steve, should I get my doctorate and go work in industry or should I go into academia? What are the pros and cons?
Yeah.
And he basically said that if you value your intellectual freedom, the only place that you're going to really, really have that, not just by chance, is in academia. And so I said, oh, well, that's what I want to do. You get paid less, but you know, that's what I want to do.
Right.
And then he encouraged me to, not pursue what is often like an interim postdoc, where you get to kind of recoup from getting your doctorate, get some publications, and then go become a professor.
Okay.
He said, no, if you can get a job as an assistant professor, go right into it.
Right.
So I did. And
what a great mentor.
The best.
Yeah.
The best. And he knows it. I told him. I made sure. He's passed away, unfortunately.
Aw.
But you know, he knew.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So basically the interesting thing is it looks like I had it all planned, but I really didn't. What worked out for me was being in touch with what motivated me and what I enjoyed, and then not being panicked that I didn't know how it was going to play out in the very next step. So I always say things became clear when they had to.
Right.
You know. And
that's such great advice too for people. If you know yourself, really know what motivates you and what you enjoy, you'll do it forever. You know, whatever that is.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to know what that is. Just to be open to, well, what is it? What is that? And be willing to kind of receive what comes your way sometimes.
Yes. And work with it. I mean, I took risks, you know, I left home.
Yeah.
You know, I grew up in New Orleans and I left New Orleans. That was rare. And so I had to find my way and I love it. But what's interesting is after that, it wasn't as much fun.
No? Why?
Because I had evil mentors. I even got mad at my Steve because I'm like, you were not mean enough to me. The world is so cruel and you were just the best.
Yeah.
You did not prepare me for evil mentors.
How funny.
Yes.
So mentors in what capacity? People you worked under or?
Yeah, because, you know, like, there's always somebody who's at the helm, right? You know, and somebody who's in charge of the shop and they, you know, it's a business and they want you to be productive and it's better when they know what to do with you and how to make sense of you. And I can look back now and understand that what freaked out these guys were that they couldn't make sense of me.
Interesting.
And I wasn't doing what they were doing. I was doing what I wanted to do.
Right.
And that freaked them out. And so it turned out that they dealt with that by being, evil.
Shit asses,
Yeah.
as we say. They were shit ass.
Shit ass.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That stinks.
Yeah. But I still stayed in it because I'm doing what I want to do intellectually. And I do love what I do. But I have to say that when I teach about retirement and things to my students, I tell them, the old way was what you described about your father and stuff, and people staying in the same career path. And in the old days, World War II, post World War II, there were pensions and things. All that's going by the wayside.
Yes.
And so people pop around now and you, don't expect to do that. But I'm a terrible example of that.
Because you did exactly that.
I did. Yes. Yes.
That's funny.
And I have the complete curiosity, like, oh, I think being a real estate agent would be fun. I could flip homes. That would be fun. Or, I've always wanted to be a waitress.
It's not that fun. Actually, I had a great time being a waitress. It was really fun.
Totally imagine.
Yeah, if you like to talk to people and you're friendly and open. Yeah. It's super fun. And you get paid like that and go home and you don't have to think about anything. You're done.
Yes.
There's no napkin to fold once you're home. You're good. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp is a resource for everyone on this planet who might feel lost, confused, like they need a mentor, like they need some guidance and direction, like something's just off in your life and you can't pinpoint it. Therapy is one of the most powerful gifts you can give yourself. BetterHelp is a place where you can get therapy if you need it. Let me tell you about my journey with therapy. I have been in therapy twice. I am currently in therapy and have been in therapy for a while this time. When I realized I was in love with my husband, Bert, I realized I didn't have a really good background in healthy marital relationships. My parents had 7 divorces between the two of them, and I just didn't have that kind of experience under my belt. So I went to therapy for help. I was like, I don't have someone in my core family that knows how to do this in the way that I want to do this. So let me go get some help for me to figure out how I want to be in this marriage. And it ended up changing my point of view with all the relationships in my life, including my relationship with myself. And I never would have gained those perspectives had I not gone to therapy. Therapy, it can just help you get closer to the best version of yourself you want to be. It can help you figure out what that even looks like so you can kind of work toward that. Therapy can be the most powerful gift you give yourself, like I said. So if you're thinking of giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option. It's convenient, it's flexible, it's affordable, and it's online. Hello. You know how much time I spend driving to the therapist? Online is amazing. You just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Hey, listen, not every therapist is the right fit. You may find someone right off the bat, like I did. My first therapist was a home run, but I know lots of people who've had to try maybe 2, maybe even 3 to find the exact right fit. So be patient with yourself if this is a route that you want to take, and be patient with the therapist that you try this out with. If you want to live a more empowered life, therapy can get you there. Visit BetterHelp.com/wife today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/wife. BetterHelp.com/wife gets you 10% off your first month. What do you have to lose? This podcast is also brought to you by HelloFresh. I know you know I am a huge fan of HelloFresh. I can tell you so many reasons why. I love the convenience. I love I don't have to think about what I'm eating. I love that all the groceries for the meal are in my refrigerator. All I have to do is open it up, pull out the recipe card, pull out the ingredients, whip something together in 15, maybe 20 minutes, and have a fresh, healthy meal ready to go. My kids love everything I've ever made from HelloFresh. They try things that are outside their wheelhouse, some things we never would order if we went to a restaurant. I am a huge fan of HelloFresh. HelloFresh, fresh ingredients, which is always better than takeout, always better than processed foods. And it tends to be less expensive than takeout at the end of the day. And, cooking by yourself or with your kids or with your spouse or significant other can always be a really fun event, especially when you take the stress out of it, of having to decide what to cook, where to get the ingredients, and how much it might cost you. It's just such an easy, effortless way to live your life, to just open the fridge and push go. I love HelloFresh. HelloFresh has a collection of limited time recipes, and they're made with seasonal products and premium proteins. You can get out of this post-holiday winter slump by putting food in your mouth and in your gut that's good for you. That's a really big positive too. Go to HelloFresh.com/wife21. Use the code wife21 for 21 free meals plus free shipping. Hi, did you hear that? 21 free meals plus free shipping. Go to HelloFresh.com/wife21 and use the code wife21 for 21 free meals plus shipping. HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. So you got interested in geriatrics in your master's?
Undergrad.
How? Why? Why geriatrics?
So my uncle was a geriatrician. And
what is a geriatrician?
These are mysteries of the universe.
I've never heard that term.
So a geriatrician, you've heard of a pediatrician.
Yes.
Okay. So the geriatrician is the equivalent for older adults.
Okay.
Okay. And it's literally just like in medicine, pediatrics is a specialty. Mm-hmm. Geriatrics is a specialty. Uh-huh. And it's very unpopular.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just not one of the glamorous areas of medicine within that world. You know, I mean, anyone being a doctor is, well respected.
Sure.
So all I knew as an undergrad was that he studied older adults. And I thought, that has got to be the most depressing thing. What is wrong with my uncle? I don't really get this at all. And so that was it until he asked me to work on a project of his. I was interviewing older adults in their homes as part of a nationwide cardiovascular health study.
Wow.
So we talked all about their lifestyles, and I was in their homes. Mm-hmm. And in hindsight, these were mostly upper, middle class and above white older adults.
Right.
But it was transformative for me because I saw a side of aging I couldn't imagine because I had no background in it.
Right.
So that got me interested. And then I had a number of experiences. I also took care of one of his study participants who had Alzheimer's disease. Uh-huh. He was a retired mariner. And he needed to be he was in a clinical trial and needed to be on a medication, and he didn't have a caregiver during the day. Mm. So for a summer, I took care of him for 8 hours a day and just made sure he took his medicine and spent quality time with him.
Right.
And then I wrote a paper as an undergrad in my last quarter in my creativity class in psychology on creativity and the aged. Mm. And I wrote that because my professor, his area of specialty was on productivity. And he wrote about how genius productivity declines after 40. Mm. And that just didn't sit well with me.
Yeah.
So I wrote a paper about amateur creativity and how it increases as you get older. Mm. And that did it. That was my last quarter. And so from then on, I just knew I wanted to study. Oh, and then I went to NIH, the National Institutes of Health. Mm-hmm. My spring quarter of my senior plus year. And I got a position as a normal volunteer. They don't do this anymore, but you basically go there and you're the control for clinical trials. Mm. And long story short, I happened to choose the National Institute of Mental Health,
Mm-hmm.
Cognitive Studies Unit,
Mm-hmm.
and they had an Alzheimer's like specialty. And I did different cognitive tests on older adults.
Wow. The path just rose to meet you, it sounds like.
It did.
Right?
It did.
So you didn't start college going, I want to do geriatrics. You just kind of, all these different circumstances led you to that path. That's so amazing.
It really was. And just to make sure that I come full circle, geriatrics is unique to medicine. Anyone who studies aging outside of medicine is called a gerontologist.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So
Good to
people
know.
will often get those things mixed up.
And there are geriatric doctors like just practicing
Oh, yeah.
here. So at what age are you considered geriatric?
So our society has pretty much chosen 65 and older
Mm-hmm.
because of a lot of our policies like Medicare
Mhm.
and Social Security were all based on the chronological age of 65. But geriatricians, I think the average age of a patient that geriatricians treat is usually in their very late 80s.
Oh, great. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Because, my dad is 74 and he's not old.
Mm.
Like I go, you're really like me, but with a lot more gray hair. Is this really, we're kind of the same at this age. I mean, I'm 52.
Yeah.
He's 74.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't see him as old. Now, his mom died when she was 88. She was old.
Yeah.
She was old at 88, but she only got old at like 85.
Yeah. That's the
know?
way you want to do it.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
You
that's
wanna-
good to know.
Yeah. And so by the time you're in your late 80s, there are plenty of exceptions, but you're still, you've slowed down a lot.
Right.
Yeah. You don't have to be disabled or anything, but things are slower.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. And the reason why geriatricians are so helpful to older adults rather than any old physician,
Mhm.
okay, is that they're able to look more at the whole picture.
Mm-hmm.
So even though medicine is very much like, a heart surgeon studies the heart and they know everything about the heart and nothing about the kidney other than what they had in medicine 101.
Right.
A geriatrician is going to be more holistic.
Right. How the
And-
systems affect each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he or she will look at, social aspects, social support for the older adult, as well as physical functioning, mental functioning, and how all of those things intersect
Mm-hmm.
to help manage the health of that older adult.
Why don't we do that now, like for my age? I feel like that is necessary at almost every age because your social aspect affects so much of what's happening in your body. And your systems all work together and speak to each other. But, I just had this, I've talked about it a million times on my podcast. Sorry, but I have long COVID. And when I went to the doctor, she just she individuated my blood work. This is normal. This is normal. This is normal. This is normal. But then I had to go to another kind of whole health doctor who went, this actually is telling me you have long COVID because of A, B, C, D, and how they're relating to each other.
Interesting.
So that's what you're
Yes.
talking about. Then
Yeah.
he looked at the whole picture and went, no, this is on the high end of normal because this is way low. So this one's overworking to compensate for this one that's low. But it's low, like to the point where my regular doctor was like, there's no point in treating that. But the whole health doctor was like, there is, because if you don't bring this one up, this one's going to overwork and go kaputs over time. Like 10 years from now, this is going to go, I'm so tired, I can't do this anymore. So we have to kind of regulate everything and they're all connected. And I asked him, I was like, why did my doctor look at my blood work like this? Why did she go low end of normal, low end of normal, high end of normal, high end of normal, changes since last blood work, COVID happened. Hey, 1, 2, 3, these things go together. But no one did that. No one did that. And it was so upsetting because I think the stuff that I have going on is not life-threatening. It's not super inhibitive, but it's still not maximized. And the things that I needed to shift it was very minimal and not expensive. Like I'm spending like $400 for 3 months worth of medication. It's really not cost prohibitive for most people even.
Right.
That I don't know why the healthcare system can't have that approach. Sounds like they do in geriatric medicine. Why can't they just bleed that on the ladder, bleed it on down?
That is an excellent question. Why can't they do that? And I think that it's hard for things to change. Medicine as a field really only came into a professional status in the last century, even though there've been, always been medicine-like, individuals in society since the dawn of man, right?
Yep.
So what happened is, it's still not that old of a profession like most professions. And the way things started were very siloed. And the way the physicians are trained, it's like they're trained to treat the average. And the average is going to fit 65% of their cases within these boundaries.
Right.
So that's why you get her or him reading the results saying, oh, this is all within normal. You're good to go.
Yeah.
But as medicine has evolved and you can specialize, then now you've got people that have spent much more time studying the nuances of their specialty and how other things can affect it. But that requires more training and more, experience and everything. And so, that's happening,
right?
But it takes longer for systems, to change. One thing that relates to my research, which I learned from medicine, is I'm interested in communication, interpersonal, and how that affects health behavior in a very generic way. I have a lot more specifics on that. But when I was formulating how I was going to approach this, I looked at the physician-patient communication literature, which is vast. And in that literature, they talk about how patients adhere to treatments better and are more satisfied when their physician communicates better with them. Okay. They have a better bedside manner.
Right.
Well, guess what? No one teaches physicians how to communicate in medical school. Now, I think they have some degree of like touching upon that, but that's a huge part of the art of medicine. But instead, they have their heads in a book learning about the anatomy when they can look that up.
Yeah, right. Because it's about care, right? Health care. So the care is emotional, right?
Emotion is not separate. It cannot be separated.
Right.
And it's all part of the picture. But, on the other hand, in defensive medicine, it's a lot to learn.
Yeah.
That's what psychologists do,
right.
So pretty much, now the trend, and it has been for a while, is looking at interdisciplinary teams, for treating more complicated healthcare, issues for older adults. But, okay, so you're not like the epitome of complicated, but, why shouldn't you have the benefit of someone being able to look at the numbers and see there's something else going on here than just you're in the normal range?
Right.
So then the patient has to be empowered, right?
Yes. The frustration I had, and I would imagine being an older person, someone from the generation before me, I know my dad is like, well, that's what he said. And I'm like, but that's not how you can't do that, because you're still having symptoms, right? If you have, I can speak for myself. My dad's having a similar situation with a heart condition, where the doctor went, everything's normal. And I go, but I'm still having symptoms. So I'm still having a problem. So I can't have you go, oh, well, don't know what to tell you. Well, then somebody who does, that was my question was, then who will know what to tell me? Because I'm still having very specific symptoms that can be tracked. This is when they started. And this is how long they've been going. They're factual. This is a fact. It's not my imagination.
Yeah.
It is all fact. And my dad's the same. My dad is having like this where he gets really out of breath and he can't catch his breath. So they diagnosed him with AFib, which runs in our family.
Okay.
But now they've flip-flopped back and forth as to whether it is or not. And they've kind of done the same thing and gone, I don't know what to tell you. And I'm like, well, this is heart. You know, he has clear, factual, like recorded on a phone. You can see him physically having these symptoms, real medical issue. I can't have you just say, I don't know what to tell you. You then send me to somewhere else. Let's look at something else. If it's not his heart, maybe it's his lungs. If it's not his lungs, maybe it's something neurological. If it's not neurological, maybe, who knows? Maybe it's his pancreas. I don't know. But can we dig a little deeper? Then I don't know. You know, send him to somewhere else. Get a full body scan. We can't just stop with that.
No, that's great that you're very, you know.
But he's not. No, he goes, well, they said they don't know, so they don't know. And I'm like, that's not, you don't stop with that. You can't do that. You can't just go, oh, well, and then have a stroke, you know?
It could be. I'm not saying it is for sure, but it could be like a generational thing.
Well, that is for my dad, for sure. 100%. Yes.
Yeah. So,
100%.
you know, how they looked at physicians and versus, you know, younger generations and how, you know, we question authority and they didn't. And, you know, so, you know, that's where the dynamic between you and your father is fabulous because you're there to motivate him to speak up and get more information and don't settle for that.
And be the inappropriate pushy guy.
Absolutely.
You know, he's never going to be rude to a doctor and say, I'm not done yet. You're not done yet. He'd never do that. He would never do that. But, you know, I didn't say that to my doctor. I just went, okay, I'm done with you and I'm going to find someone else because you're basically saying, oh, well, I don't know. And I can't have that. So I'm going to go over here and ask over here. And then when I got an answer, I was like, I'm going to get a second opinion to that answer. Because if he has that answer, then if someone else can give me that same answer, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I got a second opinion. The second doctor was a woman, gave me 95% of the same answer as the first guy. And I went, that's what's going on.
Yeah.
Now I know. But it was like a full-time job figuring all that out. Anyway.
Yes. No, but that's so good that you did that and take that approach because I couldn't support that more.
Well, I'm privileged in that I have the time and the resources to do that.
Yes, you are.
I am a privileged white woman who has the financial means to pay for those doctor's appointments out of pocket.
Right.
And that's not available for the general public. And that's a crime to me. Anybody should be able to say, I'm going to go get these alternative tests and it's free or $20 copay or something. But it's not how the system seems to work. Which really sucks.
And it's even worse than that because I don't want to go down another path, but I'll just throw it out there that, you know, that's from your perspective. Then there's the possibility that someone who doesn't have the financial means and isn't privileged, but still tries to pursue something and then gets discriminated against.
Yes.
And are like, there's that barrier, you know, and it's just ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
And right now in this country, healthcare is a business, not a right.
I agree. It is all a business, I think.
Yes.
And it sucks. It should be. It's our civic duty to take care of each other, I think. It should be a civics piece in some ways.
If someone else is well, you are well. Mm-hmm. You know, just like we're learning that you know, China's rapidly rising COVID infection rates are potentially detrimental to the rest of the world. It's not just China's problem. Mm-hmm. It's also our problem, you know? And so you can't act like something is in isolation.
Right. Very good point.
Yeah. So
geriatrics. So you teach. What do you teach? I don't even know what you'd be teaching. I'm so curious. I'm sorry. I'm actually smarter than I may seem. But I really don't know anything about your world. It's a whole new world to me.
You are my dream student. Okay.
I'm super curious.
Curious.
So curious.
Curious is.
I love to learn. I was like you. I wish I had known that learning could be a path. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It was always I had to get a job at the end, which a job, obviously, we all have to work.
Yeah.
But I just figured out as I've gone through this life, I feel like my job is learning. Like I love to learn. I love to problem solve and learn. So what do you teach? Like, what do you?
Okay. So one of the courses I teach has to do with the gerontology minor. So undergraduates have a major and they can choose a minor if they want. And one is in gerontology. Mm-hmm. Okay. So
gerontology, which is not the medical piece.
Right.
The other piece. Okay.
Exactly. You only can study geriatrics as a physician.
Okay.
But as an undergrad, you can study gerontology and a master's student and a PhD. So, so one of the courses I teach, which I have learned so much in, is the core course for the gerontology minor. And it is a course that takes aging in and of itself. You can talk about it from the biology, right? Cellular aging. You can talk about it socially, what we define as old, mm-hmm. You can approach it psychologically. Okay. How does our development change over time mm-hmm. and that kind of thing? So because this is a core course, it covers all of those things.
Wow.
Yes.
Can I take it?
You can.
I can?
You can. UCLA and many other schools have a program where older adults can come back to school.
Oh.
And they call it I don't know if they still call it this, but they used to call it a senior scholar program. And you literally can be enrolled as a formal student or you can always ask a professor, which I think you'd have a really good shot at. If you can audit the class.
I have an in.
Yes. And then you can be tortured listening to me lecture.
No, I would love it. I think it would be so interesting.
Yeah.
All those things you just pointed out. I mean, that's where I'm headed.
Yeah.
No, I mean, not for 30 years, but still that's the future.
Oh, it is. It is. It really, really is.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is that, teaching, when we first developed this at UCLA, we were like, how are we going to get a bunch of 18-year-olds interested in aging? Mm-hmm. Because it couldn't seem like more irrelevant for them.
Totally.
But one of the things we underscore in the course is that the course is about aging, not just about older adults.
Right.
Okay. And so when you look at aging, we've been aging since the moment you were conceived.
Totally.
Okay.
Yep.
So we're all aging. And then getting them to understand that how we age throughout our life affects what our scenario will look like when we're really old, if you choose to look at it like old, if you want to say that, you could say advanced in age or, that kind of thing. So basically students are usually incredibly enlightened. And, every year I get a few students that will want to stay and major in in gerontology. And they are wonderful because they're so passionate about it.
Right.
And they come from all different backgrounds. Mm-hmm. So that's the core course. Mm-hmm. And because those are big areas, I only teach really the psychology and the social aspect. Mm-hmm. And then I bring in experts in medicine and mainly medicine, and they teach about geriatrics, Alzheimer's disease, memory impairment, that sort of thing. I still do bring in a policy guy, but I also teach policy, but, I let him, he actually is a politician, like he's spent time in government, but he's also a professor. So, he was a unique angle on things. But I basically bring in people to supplement the areas that, I can't possibly teach on.
Right.
Like, studying cellular aging with Drosophila and C. elegans, which is a type of worm, and, basically animal models
Right.
of aging. And so it's fascinating.
I bet.
Fascinating. And so, so I teach that course. And then I developed an elective. So this is not required. But it's called Intergenerational Communication Across the Lifespan.
Wow. Man, I may have to take both your classes. This is amazing. Intergenerational communication
across the lifespan.
Wow.
Wasn't that nice that I said that nice and slow?
Yes, you did. Yeah. Because it's so very succinct, right? I understand exactly I understand exactly what you're teaching, right? But tell me anyway.
Well, I think it's great. I don't know. Maybe you should start because I think, I've been teaching it for over 10 years and I definitely was following this book written by a bunch of psychologists when I was teaching it. But, whenever I wasn't in the class and I wanted to tell someone about it, it's like, what really is at the essence of this, course?
Yeah.
Why do we, we know what communication is, but
Sure.
why do we have to study intergenerational communication? And so I've decided that it boils down to, I would say that, the essence of it has to do with ageism. Okay. And so one of the core things we talk about in the course is how when we meet someone that we don't know, whether it's at the bus stop or in a new class or wherever, in a family holiday visit, we're making consciously or unconsciously an assessment of how old that person is and if they're in or out of our peer group. Okay.
Wow.
And when we come to the conclusion, correct or not, that that person is not in our peer group, we feel uncertain what to say.
How fascinating. I love this.
Isn't
Yes.
it? And so you're like, oh my God, what am I going to say? So what do? You grab up to stereotypes and you think, okay, yeah, they're old. They have gray hair. So I'm going to assume they're hard of hearing. Okay. And then turns out they're not.
Yeah.
And now you've offended them.
Right.
So that's just a little piece of what is happening when we are communicating intergenerationally.
Right.
And then lots of things follow from that.
So do you teach about the intergenerational going down also in age? Like what you just expressed, I have always loved, this may be ageism, I apologize. I've always loved older people my whole life. That's grandparents.
Positive ageism.
I know. But so what you described happens to me when I meet somebody like in their early 20s and they're super trendy. Mm-hmm. And I go, I don't know what to talk to you about. Like and then I think I do reach up and grab a stereotype, but I'm older than they are. So I shouldn't even be doing that because
that's it. It
I'm
goes
more
both
mature.
ways.
That's my point is that
totally
going up, I got no problem. And I never have. I remember being a really small kid and just loving all the old people because I just loved my grandparents so much.
Yes,
and
yes.
I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 great grandparents and 1 great. So I always had all these old people. Well, at the time they were probably 35, but I thought they were old. You know what I mean? I had all these generations that I just was so comfortable. But what you described to me would happen at the bus stop with a trendy 25-year-old.
Of course.
And I would go, I have no idea what to talk to that person about. They're going to think I'm so old. I don't know what to say. You probably have on some kind of design or something. I don't know what it is.
Oh my gosh. It is so true. But what's interesting is it's so kind of sweet that you would be concerned about what are they going to think about you. Like you could be the kind of person that'd be like, oh God, here's a young, stupid, trendy kid. And
I do
I don't
think
even
that
want to talk to
too.
them.
Sometimes I do.
Yeah.
Of course, because I'm a human being.
Yeah.
But most of the time it's my own insecurity.
Yeah, but that's true for everybody.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
and so we do emphasize going young to old because I have usually college students in the class.
Sure.
But you know, we also talk about the other way.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, and part of the class involves them going out and interacting with older adults, often in facilities that serve older adults, like a senior center or an adult daycare or something like that.
Right.
And then they have encounters that are completely off the textbook. You don't know what they're
Totally.
going to experience,
Yeah,
you know.
totally.
But yeah, so we talk about that, but we talk about really abstract things like what are theories on intergenerational communication? Why do we care about them? We look at very specific intergenerational relationships like grandparent, grandchild, adult child, adult aging parent. We look at friendships, you know, that kind of thing. So, you know, we hit on all of the different types of relationships. We talk about intergenerational relationships outside of the family, which can include like workplace and stuff. When you look up books to see what's on intergenerational communication, most of what you'll find is about workplace dynamics. It's a huge thing.
Yeah. Well, now that you mention it, it would be a huge thing, but I never thought about it consciously.
Of course not. Why? Until you know, that's kind of what life is like, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But that's so fascinating.
It really is. And I'm really proud to say I teach the course and I love it. It is my favorite course. And I love the students that take the course. They come from all over campus. I get theater majors, engineers, biology.
It's because they want to be there.
Psychology.
It's an elective, right? It's an elective. So they want to be there.
They want to be there. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So, so I teach that course. And then the other courses, I've taught other substantive courses, but my other bread and butter stuff is really nothing to do with aging. It's teaching about research and, you know, anything from how to do statistical analyses or how to analyze data qualitatively to mentoring students through a year-long research project.
Interesting.
You know, from A to Z.
Right.
Yeah. So, you know, I can't really teach social welfare courses because I don't have a social welfare degree.
Okay.
So I've dabbled in that and it has never turned out well.
How come?
That's a good question. To be really honest, I think it's a little of me and a little of them. Okay. A little of me because it takes a lot of work to put together a new course. And then to put together a new course that is not really your area is even more work.
Yeah.
And frankly, the system I'm in does not reward good teaching. It rewards research. And so something's got to give. So I honestly probably wasn't as prepared as I should have been. So that's on me. But on the other hand, the students are, you know, they kind of know that I'm not a social worker.
Right.
And that makes them uncomfortable, I think. And then they find issues. And then they don't deal with them like you would think, like talk to me. They go to other people.
Right.
And then it's just a disaster.
Huh.
Yeah. So that hasn't turned out well.
Oh.
Yeah. So those are kind of the main things.
That's amazing. Is there something that you want to teach that you don't?
Well, I did get to teach stats, which is something I've always wanted. And that only happened about 4 years ago.
I hate stats. Statistics was like my 1D in college.
I know, but that's why I wanted to teach it because I fell in love with stats. And I know most people hate it and are afraid of it.
Yeah.
And so I thought if only I could teach it, I swear I could change people.
Right.
Yeah, that didn't work out that way. It did not work out that way.
That's so funny.
At all.
No.
So that wish has occurred and turned into, maybe not.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. I also taught a course on kindness.
Uh-huh.
UCLA has a new institute on kindness.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so thrilled because, you hear institutes on heart, lung, and blood, or, neuropsychiatry, or I don't know, I'm making these things up, right? But kindness?
Yeah.
So but when I taught the course, I taught it, but it was more of a facilitation because I only gave 1 or 2 lectures and then we brought in people,
Mm-hmm.
So that was fun. But what would I teach now at this point in my career? I mean, I don't want to teach much.
No.
I'd rather do more research.
Yeah.
So I don't really think about that. I think about like, okay, I'm teaching this, and this, and I'm happy.
Yeah.
Life is good as long as I can keep teaching this, and this.
That's great then. Yeah. So you have no wants.
Not in the realm of teaching.
That is amazing.
Yeah. Just want less.
Want less? Want less?
Yeah.
Less of what?
I think, I really enjoy all of my classes. So it's just, I don't want to have to do 4 of them a year, So like
Okay.
if I were to retire from UCLA, which this happens all the time, professors retire and then they come back and teach a course.
Oh, I see.
You see?
Yeah.
So if I had to pick between all my courses, I would come back and teach the intergenerational one.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
elective.
one. And it's at a point where I need to revamp it.
Mm-hmm.
And, that would be delicious to be able to focus on that.
Well, what seems to me as personally as an aging person,
as I am too.
As we all are.
Yes.
That was the joke.
If we're lucky.
If we're lucky, right? Is communication changes so much throughout your life, right? You learn more about who you are. If you are other focused, somewhat even, you learn about how other people communicate and can apply it to your own processing, piece with communication. And just as you get older, everything, the way I communicate with my dad now is very different than when I was 20.
So true.
And to be able to recognize it and recognize when an adjustment has to be made would be so helpful, because I think that's what happens sometimes, is that as families age together, they don't always adjust together. I think kids, or at least when I'm watching my peers with their aging parents, I always go, you have to realize when that parent of yours is not capable of coping or processing or being patient or whatever, fill in the blank, that they could do when they were your age. They're 20, 30 years older, and just your chemical body changes. So I would imagine your ability to cope or to even clearly express your emotions without, being reactive shifts for some people, maybe not for everybody.
Yes.
But if you expect your dad to be at 75 the way he was at 45, you're a fool, because they're a completely regenerated human being. You know what I mean? So I don't think people think about that or are aware about that or care to learn about that. And if you don't, you just end up unhappy, Emergency?
No. Can I turn that off?
You can do whatever you want. What is your heart out? Remind me. When do you need to be out?
Oh, I changed it because I'm not done grading, so I don't have to rush off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
you have the cool flip phone?
I do, but it's generation 4. This has been out for a while. I don't know why anyone's making.
Is it an Android?
People do get excited about this.
Yes,
but it's Android and it's the Flip 4.
4.
So it's got to be at least 4 years old,
right?
Yeah. But yeah, it gets a lot of attention.
So cool, still cool.
Yeah, I love technology. So I have a lot of fun. Yeah, I just have to say what you just said.
Yeah,
is like, oh my gosh, that's like either a new course to teach or a book.
Well, then write it.
Up.
Yes, for sure, because that's the thing. That's the thing. I think you have to be I have been in therapy for years.
Me too. I love therapy. I love
my life. But if you're not reflective, right? If you're just reactive, you can't possibly learn or pivot or adjust yourself or your expectations. If you are always not blaming, but like pushing outward, you know what I mean? Sometimes you have to pivot yourself. You have to go, hold on. My dad is not everybody knows I adore my dad, but there are moments when my dad gets anxious about things that he didn't get anxious about when I was a child. So I have to grow with him and with what he needs. It's almost like having an adult transition, not to a child, but he's not the caretaker of me anymore emotionally. I don't mean like buying my groceries. I mean, like, I am now the caretaker of our emotional life together because of his age and maturity and his like physical, biological makeup. At a certain age, things start shifting. And I think they go backwards a little bit as they get older. I mean, is that wrong?
First off, one of the main principles of aging that I also emphasize tremendously is diversity. So you just can't speak about an 80-year-old like all 80-year-olds are like this. So
That's true.
It's so diverse. So with that said, there are things we can anticipate fairly predictably, like, our hearing changes. It doesn't have to be deaf, but it changes. Our eyesight changes.
Right.
Well, these little things then affect other things. And so, they're, and then the personality of the person, are they kind of stuck in like the way that they feel the most comfortable, which might have been when they were 20,
right?
And how they look at the world,
right,
and deal with the world,
yeah.
Or have they evolved,
right?
And I'm really into evolving,
yeah.
And there are plenty of people that aren't,
yeah.
And so, and it also depends on how adaptable you are. I think being adaptable is a huge asset in life,
right?
Adapt.
Yeah.
Some people don't adapt.
Yeah,
they're
true.
stuck.
Very
and
true.
So when you come to a relationship, let's keep it simple, just two people, whoever is more adaptable is going to be able to accommodate the other one more.
Right.
And we touch upon this in the intergenerational class about how, when parents are raising children, there's an implicit assumption that they're going from complete dependence to complete independence, which we know is kind of silly, right?
Yeah.
Ideally, we're interdependent.
Yes.
What we don't anticipate is how, as we age and become adults, our parents are in a trajectory that, a conundrum of sorts, that the longer they live, the more at risk they are for becoming less independent or more dependent.
Right.
And we don't have a lot of scripts for that.
No.
Role models.
No. No, and culturally, we're not really set up like other cultures. A lot of other cultures are intergenerational in their household from the beginning.
Right.
Where grandma lives with you while you're raising your kids. Grandma, grandpa do homework with the kids while you cook dinner. And then as you age out, there's a different respect for the elders. And I don't think culturally, I think we used to be that way culturally, but I think we've moved away from it. I don't know why, because I definitely was brought up to respect my elders, and they got passes, so to speak, that my parents, oh God, babe, you scared me.
Geriatrics?
Oh, speaking
Are we
of,
talking about geriatrics?
why? She's
But he
wet.
didn't scare
This
me
animal?
because he had a little dog with him.
This dog.
This dog is geriatric. She's 16.
Oh,
She's blind in one eye, can hardly see in the other. She's deaf. Her nose is working overtime. But when she can't find me, she just barks and barks and barks. So she's got some anxiety.
So cute.
But yeah.
I have a 20-year-old cat.
You do?
Hi.
You met at the gala.
Yeah.
This is Leanne.
Leanna's mom.
Oh,
Yo. Yes. We met.
bad.
It's okay.
She is a professor.
I forget that people I meet also have occupations.
Yeah, she's a professor at UCLA.
Well, I knew I was listening.
Yeah.
It's been an amazing conversation.
Yeah, it's been a really great conversation. And
You've been listening the whole time?
Well, not the whole time, but I've been listening for a little while.
We didn't think anyone was going to listen.
Well, I knew
right?
Halston was listening.
That's how you make a good podcast, when you think no one's listening. All right, I'm polar plunging because I don't want to get old.
Well, will you take her with you,
Yeah,
please?
yeah, she's coming.
Okay, good.
Oh,
The old lady. We call her
cute.
old lady. She's
I called
so
my
cute.
dog an old lady before I put her down.
Did? Aw.
2 months ago.
Yeah, Mona's an old lady.
Yeah,
Bless
old
her
lady.
heart.
But as long as she's, happy.
She's happy. She just
Yes.
doesn't like it when she can't find me. And she can't see me very well. So I have to literally go, I'm over here, because she can't hear me. And then she'll see me wave and go, oh, got it. There's where you are. Okay, good.
I'm so with you. My dog was like that too. And then she still wouldn't see me.
Yeah.
So I had to go gently touch her
Yeah.
and let her know that I was there.
I'm here.
Yes,
Aw.
I know.
But she's happy. She loves to go on her walks still. She walks around the back. She patrols. She'll walk the whole perimeter of our backyard. And,
you don't have to worry about coyotes here?
well, I don't think they come in our yard because of the two big dogs. I'm
Good
sure
point.
they smell that urine and go, next door. Let's go next door. I think wrong house. We've never had problems at our house before either, because we've always had these great big dogs.
Oh my God.
So they've got to smell it. I mean, surely.
yeah.
I mean, the coyote is a wild animal. I'm
Yes.
sure he's like, no. The volume of urine in this yard means there's either an entire pack or a couple of big guys. So we're going to go next door and see if they have a cat in the yard. Because, we have a cat that lives in the yard. She showed up here, Shirley. She just showed up.
Shirley showed up.
Shirley showed up. I named her Shirley.
Yeah.
Because she had like an air tag on, but no name.
Oh.
And so I was like, she's clearly someone's pet. And then I figured out who she was and invited them to come get her, and they didn't. And then invited them again, and then they still didn't. And I was like, well, I guess then she's my cat.
Yeah.
And if she's my cat, I can't bring her in the house because I have a cat. And I tried bringing this cat in the house, and that cat, who is 16, was like, oh, hell no, I'm not doing this. So I was like, well, Shirley, until Gus passes away, you just have to live in the garage. So I put her in the garage every night because I'm afraid a coyote's going to get her.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've never seen, but coyotes used to live in my backyard. When we bought this house, the woman that lived here was 88 and hadn't really cared for the lawn. So a tree had fallen in the lawn and it had covered it in ivy, that just green ivy that's everywhere.
Right.
So when we bought the house, we were cleaning out the landscaping because I wanted to put grass and, landscape it, not just have ivy. Half the backyard was just ivy on the ground.
No.
So we started pulling this ivy up, and there's a coyote den in my backyard.
What did that look like?
It looked like a little mound. There was like a tree, and there was a little entry area over to the side, and there was fur and stuff all in there. And I was like, no way.
But how'd you know it was coyote and not like a raccoon den or something?
I don't know. I think I was with the landscaper, and we just said, this is
Deduced
coyote.
It was a coyote den. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
that makes sense. I don't really hear about raccoon dens, but you certainly hear about coyote
Well, I don't know.
dens.
How do raccoons live?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I mean, gerontologist, not a zoologist.
Slight difference.
But give me a minute, I'll Google it.
Yeah, right? Well, you're good at research, so.
Oh, I am.
Could you give me the
I-
statistics on raccoon? No,
Yeah.
just kidding.
I'll get back to you on that.
Anyway, I think all this is really fascinating, and I think that we don't. This is something I've been working on too, as I see that I'm a couple years from being an empty nester. I don't think that we actively work on that phase of life, and that we're not taught to actively think about
You hit it.
that
on the head.
phase, right?
Oh, yeah. We're just supposed to deny it.
Or yes,
No, it's not going to happen to us.
yes, but it happens to everybody.
If they're lucky.
Yeah,
If they're lucky.
If they're
Because
lucky.
if you don't want to grow old, then die young.
yeah.
Okay.
right.
And then we feel so sorry for those people. Oh, they
Yes.
died so young,
Yes.
but we don't really say oh, hot dog. They lived to their old and then died.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
usually it's just that old person died. They were due.
Yeah, right. They lived a
kinda.
good life.
Yeah, they lived a good life.
They lived a good life. No regrets. But I mean, like, here's my little bit of a soapbox. I think that we should have a class in every high school that talks about all these phases of life. It talks about many things. It talks about money in a basic way. It talks about, this is what I did a podcast my first year of podcasting called 20s, 30s, 40s, because what happens in those decades of your lives are drastically different. And what's the purpose of each decade really?
Right.
For your human growth and development, for what your body's doing, for what you're learning, for what your money looks like. No one talks to you about that. When you get out of high school or out of college, they don't go, okay, here's your 20s, you're figuring out who you are. You're going to have 80 different jobs or not. You're going to have 5 different relationships or not. This is normal. If this is what your path is, there's nothing wrong with it.
Right.
Your 30s, you'll kind of have it figured out. You'll go, okay, I like this. I don't like that. And then you can start crafting your life. And in your 40s, you usually have it kind of up and running.
You're mastering it, right?
You're mastering it, yes. And then your 50s, you're enjoying it, right? And hopefully through your 60s too. But that's been my extremely generalized description of those decades. Obviously, people have things that doesn't line up with. People get married in different decades, get divorced in decades, and have tragedies, and that throws you off the path. But if you're going to ask a general path, that's what I came up with based on my own life and the 2 other guests we had. We all kind of agreed, yep, that's kind of what it was like.
Yeah. But
no one tells you that.
No.
And so now I feel like I'm at this place of 50, 60, 70, and no one's telling me what that's like. And I'm trying to project ahead and go,
I love it.
I think the 50s is about enjoying your life, right? Because my kids are going to be out. Now I'm back just with my husband, who I love and adore, but we've been dividing and conquering with parenting. We've been dividing and conquering with careers, where even though I work for him and with him, we still have separate things also. And so what does that look like? I sit on my couch by myself a lot because Isla's with friends and Georgia's at college and Bert's on the road. And I go, oh, this is not going to be my everyday. Like, I don't need to be with people every day, but I need to be with people sometimes. So I'm going to start playing pickleball, because at least I know then every Wednesday I'm going to go play pickleball, and that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's going to change your life.
But, well, it will just supplement. And I don't think, where's my handbook? I want my handbook for 50, 60, 70, because there was no handbook for 20, 30, 40 either.
No.
I mean, they'll talk, I've seen books talking about phases of your life, but that aging piece of it really dictates some of what's happening. And I just wish they taught a course in high school where they're like a life skill course. This is how you talk to people. This is how you listen. This is what aging looks like through the years. This is how you deal with your money. This is how you get a job. Here's how you look for an apartment. I don't know why they don't teach some kind of life skills class, why it's not required.
Yeah, no. And as you're telling me this, which, by the way, I think everything you're saying is completely brilliant. We should write a book. But the interesting thing, as I look at Lewis's boys having just went to college, and Leanna, they take AP courses. Okay. I didn't have AP.
No.
And what's fascinating to me is they're basically taking college credit in high school. And it's sort of like, okay, but what are they missing by doing that? Like, why don't they just take college when they get to college? Why do we have to do everything ahead of time?
Yeah.
And so you're absolutely right. And I think that one of the things we do hear about throughout our life is how important it is to save for retirement. Okay. As if money is the end all be all.
Right.
Clearly, it is a very important thing. No one's denying that.
Right.
But everything you just talked about, we talk about money, that's monetary capital. What about social capital?
Completely, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
What about social capital when the longer you live, the more at risk you are for losing social capital because you outlive people. Okay. So, what does it mean to prepare from a social capital standpoint for your later years.
Completely. That's what I'm talking about with pickleball. That social capital has been entwined with parents of my kids.
Yes.
My kids are leaving. Where's that capital?
Right.
So I'm not willing to not have any. So where do I invest in the friends I have so that we stay together? That's what my projective brain does is I go, oh, I'm not spending the next 10 years on this couch by myself. No way. But I don't think people think like that in general. They just all of a sudden go, I'm super depressed and I don't know why. And that, well, how am I in this pit?
So now we could talk about psychological capital.
Okay.
Okay. Right now, ever since the pandemic, it's like so cool to talk about mental health, right? Everyone's talking about it coming out left and right. It's like not as much of a taboo or anything like it used to be. Well, yeah. I mean, college campuses right now, the student psychological services, they're so overburdened.
Oh, I would imagine. Yeah.
But this is not just since the pandemic. This was even before. They have a whole division for like any medical reason that you need special accommodations when you're test taking or anything else throughout the course. It's like it's out there. Well, that's complicated because life is going to continue to give you challenges. How do you grieve when you lose someone? How do you deal with rejection in a relationship? What do you do when you get fired from your job? What do you do when you are hit in a disaster? Mental health, they need to be teaching that too.
100%. 100%.
But somehow money is okay to talk about, think about, make it your sole life purpose.
But they don't do that right. You know why they don't do that right?
Tell me.
I'll tell you. I went to a very small school in rural Georgia. I had a class that they offered only for the vocational school students. So like after homeroom, a bunch of kids got on the bus and drove to vocational school to take electrician, x-ray technician, whatever.
Yeah.
And then they came back, had lunch, and then had their core classes after lunch, right? So there was a class that was required for vocational school students called basic math. And that math class was like life skill math. Like, what is an interest rate? I'm not even joking.
No, I believe you.
How do you balance your checkbook?
Yes.
How do you file a tax return? I learned this in high school from Mr. Landers, who taught basic math. And that class was probably the most important class I had in high school. Because I learned about money, not about you need money, you have to have money, but what even is money? How do you open a credit card? What does an APR mean?
Yes.
How does that affect you? He taught me that in high school. And none of the kids that were going to college or in non-vocational school track had this class. I had it because I had taken every class that they offered and I needed an elective. And that was my elective.
Yeah.
Thank God, because I go back to it all the time and go, that was so valuable. And also I just heard this the other day and I was like, if this is true, why isn't this common knowledge? When your child is a young adult, 18, 19, 20 years old, and they've finally made enough money, like that where they can file income taxes. If you can put $6,000 in a retirement fund for them in their early 20s, by the time they retire, that one investment will be over $1 million.
And then
did you know that?
Good. No, I did not know that.
You don't even have
I'm going to ask if Lewis knows that.
Is he a financial person? Well, I called our business manager and said, is this true? And he said, yeah, technically, without being super specific about it, in general, yeah, that's true. And I'm like, well, then why? A, I'm 52. Why didn't I know this? B, everybody keeps saying invest in your retirement. If I'm a 20-year-old and someone tells me if you can get $6,000 in the bank in the first 2 or 3 years, you don't need to worry about it anymore, I would have busted my ass to get $2,000 extra a year.
Yeah.
And put it in there. But they don't explain that to you.
No, they don't.
But you gotta retire, invest, save. Well, that one little piece of information relieves all that pressure, right?
Right.
So your brain can do something else with worrying. I spent 15 years after college worrying about my retirement. Because all I'd heard was, you have to invest. I was waiting tables. I put like $200 in my retirement fund. But if someone had told me that specific information, then I could have had a specific goal
Right.
that's achievable.
Yes.
You know what I want for Christmas? $50 in this retirement fund.
Oh, right,
You know what I want for
right.
Christmas? $200 in this retirement fund. And before you know it, you got a couple $1,000s. You did it over 3 years. Now you got $1 million when you retire. Come
Yeah.
on.
Done. Oh
No
my
one
gosh.
teaches that.
Oh my gosh.
They-
That is so amazing.
Isn't it? And
Yes.
it's so stupid that we have no resource to learn this practical living life skills. It's a practical life skill to know how to communicate with someone older or younger than you.
Yes.
That's just a practical life skill.
Yes.
And if you're not growing up in a multi-generational family where you're exposed to that regularly,
Mhm.
I had cousins everywhere when I lived with my dad of all ages.
So
And
fun.
both my grandparents were one of 8. And my grandmother was the oldest of 8. And my grandfather was in the middle. So I had all these older people. We had all these family reunions where I saw all these people of every age all the time. We had a family reunion like once a month.
Oh,
I'm not
my
joking. First Sunday in May, third Sunday in May, Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, third Sunday in September. I mean, like it was, and then Thanksgiving we were together. We went to a special dinner Christmas. We had Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and then January was kind of a break. February was a break. Easter back again. Every year, my whole life, I saw this large family unit.
Wow.
And so I got to learn some of those basic skills, but I don't think I'm the usual. I think that's not normal nowadays.
Well, especially because our kids are on their phones all the time.
Yes. Or in
And-
their AP classes.
Yeah, or in their AP classes. Exactly. Like, yippee, I'm finishing college before I ever get there.
I know.
And it's like,
Oh, my God.
good for you. You lost out on high school. but
Right?
Yeah.
As one of my Girl Scouts, I run a Girl Scout troop, will graduate with a 2-year college degree a week before she graduates from high school. And when she told me that, I said, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
She said, because I want to be an oral surgeon and it's just a long time to be in school. And so I'd rather just get 2 years out of the way while I'm in high school. And I'm like, you are already working a job and you are 16 years old.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Flip side of that is Georgia never took any AP classes, was never interested. And I just curiosity. I was like, well, your peer group is there. Why? And she said, I want high school to be high school and college to be college. And I went,
What a smart
I
cookie.
love you.
Oh, that is so
Exactly right.
great. I
Just-
love
I don't want to worry
that.
about college till I get to college. I just want to be here. And I went, I can completely support that.
Absolutely.
I was just curious why, you
Right.
know, if all your peers are there, why I don't want you to be there, but what's your reasoning? What's your
Right.
thought process?
That was a great question. And it sounds so wise of her.
It was.
and
her.
You know, to realize too, like we know, once it's gone, it's gone.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
So you can reminisce all you want, but if you don't live it in the moment, it's gone.
Yeah, it's
You
true.
know? One year, I try to come up with icebreakers at the beginning of the class for the aging classes. And one year, I came up with this idea where I said, I want you to each write down how old you are, how old do you feel, and how old do you want to be? 3 things. How old are you? How old do you feel? And how old do you want to be? And then they shared some of them. And what I kept hearing is they wanted to be in their 30s, but they were in their, late teens or early 20s. And I said, okay, enough. What's going on here?
Yeah.
Why do you want to be in your 30s? And they're like, well, there's so much pressure on us right now to have it all figured out.
Mm.
That's going to happen in the 20s. I just wish we could skip it and go right to the 30s when it's all figured out.
Wow.
So I said, okay, I can see. I said, but first off, it's not going to be all figured out in your 30s. So you'll be figuring things out to the day you die.
Mm-hmm.
Second thing, the only reason the 30s are of a benefit to you is because you've gone through your 20s.
Absolutely.
If you don't go through your 20s, you might as well not be in your 30s because you need your 20s to be in your 30s.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Amen.
Done.
And the shit you do in your 20s is so deplorable and horrible and embarrassing and shameful. And it's delicious. You know, I would never act that way in my 30s. I look back at my 20s and go, I was a fucking cowboy. I was a 10-foot tall and bulletproof. And I got into so much bullshit. And I love it that I had that.
Yes.
Because I look back on that and go, I was a real renegade. I really got some shit done. What an amazing decade. But at the time, I was miserable. I was so unhappy. And I was a drama, you know, and I was in trouble with the law and all this bullshit that I was really getting into.
Yes.
But now I look back and go, I would never be this person if I didn't have all that. There's no way. Now, the caveat to that is I realized what I was doing wasn't making me happy. And I dove into figuring out what would. I think people might get stuck in that rebel, renegade, intense drama and not ever go, hold on.
Yeah.
How sustainable is this over life?
Or go down a path and not be able to recover, like end up in jail.
Exactly.
And then that messes up the whole rest of your life.
Exactly. So I'm not saying my way was the right way.
No.
But that there should be mistakes and problems and issues and dramas, that's to be expected. And that is what molds you and makes the metal that you become for the rest of your life. And you're right. If you don't do that, you don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have it.
You don't have it.
No, you have to go through it.
But, you know, it's interesting as I'm listening to you, I think back and I was a good girl. Like
that's good.
No.
Why is it not good?
No.
But that
I mean,
was
it's
your
good.
path, though.
It's good because everybody would say a good girl is a good girl. Okay.
No, but you all have to be who you are. That's true to you.
Yeah. But I think the interesting thing is that, well, once it's gone, but it's not lost because I found that when I ended up filing for divorce, I had my second adolescence.
Yeah.
In my 50s.
Yeah.
And I got to experience a bit of the renegade bit of life.
Yeah.
And I'm done. Okay.
But wasn't it fun?
It was so much fun.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
I even decorated my kitchen red. Like
amazing.
Whoopie-doo, right? But that was so bold.
Yeah.
You know, I hung curtains. I was afraid of curtains.
Why were you afraid of curtains?
Because I didn't trust my taste.
Oh my God.
You know, and
what did you have on your windows? Blinds?
Yeah, the apartment had blinds.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but you know, I put up curtains, red curtains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for you.
You know, and so it's like just was a really interesting time.
I bet.
Yeah.
Would you say it was a metamorphosis? Or was it just an opening of a certain part? You know what I mean? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Oh, I know what you're saying. Yeah. I think that it was probably the culmination of a metamorphosis.
Interesting.
Because I didn't just wake up one day and say, "Oh, I'm going to get divorced."
Yeah.
It was
I would imagine not.
No, it was bubbling for years.
Yeah, with 2 kids, you can't just wake up and go, "I'm out."
No.
There's a lot to consider and yeah.
No. But it so I think that's, you know, I took a lot of risks and
totally.
And, you know, like I just learned a lot about myself, but like, it was like I was brewing. It just burst.
It was waiting.
Yeah. So I you know, I feel like I had that time now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I had that time. You know, it just taught me a lot about myself.
Right.
You know, and that's interesting in that I still go back and I question like, well, do I really want to like stay being a professor? You know, like maybe I want to try something else. And it's really hard to change. And so I still find I fight with that. Because if I was really still, you know, able to take big risks, I could do that. You know,
you mean transition out of being a professor?
Yes.
What would you do if you weren't a professor?
Well, one thing that would be appealing is to be a writer.
Oh, okay.
You know, because it's what would get me promoted as a professor, but I have a hard time doing with everything else.
It's just you don't have the time space for it. Like
The way I want it.
Yeah.
The way I want it. Yes.
Because it's so funny, as we've been talking throughout this whole thing, I keep thinking, you're like Brene Brown, but for like the life's journey with different phases of life. Like Brene does, you know who Brene
I
Brown
know
is.
Brene Brown.
Her-
Yes.
her-
Not personally.
No.
But yeah, she's great.
But I don't know where the voice is that like breaks down the phases of life and how you transition from phase to phase of who is that person? Maybe it's you.
Yeah, I just, I feel like I want to write.
Yeah,
you know,
that's my
like a
point.
book and
That's my
different
point.
books.
That's my point is maybe that's your next phase. Maybe that's your empty nest phase.
I know,
Maybe
but what if I don't do it?
so what?
I know, but what if?
But so what?
But
So
I mean,
what's
so
in that?
what
Okay, then
means
let's
like
explore
I've
this.
played it safe, you know?
Or it's true. So then, but then that what if is not painful enough for you to do it, right? It's not causing you enough discomfort to go, all right, I'm getting off the pot.
Probably.
But let's skin that rabbit a different way. What if you didn't write a book? What if you made some kind of audio journal of what you're thinking to save for writing a book for another time? Is that something you could do? Just sit down and like speak, like, here's my 10 chapters. And now you have it. And then
You're so funny. Because
Why?
I've started that.
have you?
I have.
Oh my
I
God.
could show it to you on my what I do is I don't audio record it. I make a voice to text.
Uh-huh.
And while I'm commuting, because I love thinking, and thinking and thinking and thinking. And so I just was like, okay, this feels a little weird, but I'm going to start recording
You
it.
should.
And so I've started, but it was just recently and I don't have a lot. But I have these different ideas that, you know how it is. You're like, oh yeah, no, that's not going anywhere. But then, maybe it would. You just don't need to judge yourself.
That's right.
Creativity, you have to let it out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I've been really inspired by Kelly Brown, who has been a guest here. She had a daughter. She's I'm trying to say this without saying the name of our school, and my brain keeps tripping. Her
right.
daughter graduated from the same high school, and she graduated from our daughter's high school. But she's written several books, and she is always on me about writing books. She was like, it's really not that complicated. Just sit down for 15 minutes every day and write something. Every day. She was like, if you tell me you can't find 15 minutes, I haven't been able to find that 15 minutes, by the way.
Yeah.
But she's kind of right.
Yeah.
And it sounds to me like you have 2 classes that are already, maybe not the bio piece that you bring other people in, but the other 2 pieces that you teach proficiently. I would read a book about that in 1 second, especially at this age, because I am a project forward thinker and I am looking into the future, and it would be really helpful because when Georgia was 12, I thought to myself, I'm about to be with a teenage girl and I need to know what that means.
Yes.
Like, I need to know what that means, not from what I've observed, but from what an expert knows. I need some expert knowledge to know what I'm about to go into.
Yes.
So I read this amazing book called Untangled. It was amazing.
I'm almost finished the book.
Isn't that an amazing book? It's amazing, right?
Yeah, because I have a 12-year-old.
Exactly.
Now I have Leanna,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Like I was going through the divorce.
Yeah.
So
Other
it's
priorities at that moment.
amazing.
Isn't
You're
it?
Right.
So
It's-
where is that book for? This is what happens. And you come on.
Come
I need this book.
on. That is brilliant.
But where is that
brilliant.
book?
No, it's not.
There's not one.
No.
So I think you should write it.
okay. So there. You see, so I
we've
even have
just
a
made
plan.
a decision.
Yeah,
Yes.
made
I've decided
a-
for you.
Yes. But the funny thing is I could get promoted by writing a book
Yeah.
in my current job.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. That's not a problem. It's just
Well, you
doing all
shouldn't-
the other things.
No, you shouldn't write the book to be promoted, in my opinion.
No, you're
And-
right.
Because I'm such an expert and know everything about your life. But no, you should write the book because I need the book. See what I mean? And I'm not
You'll
the
promote
only
me to
person.
the next level of fun professor, right?
I will. But I know so many people that need that book. I need that book because I need to know. I need to know the things you've been talking about. Like
Yes.
I would come take your class. I'm not even joking because
no, you can.
because my
Nobody's
brain
joking.
goes next phase. What am I supposed to be working on? What am I
Right.
supposed to be preparing for? Listen, I had to kind of raise myself a lot as a kid from like age 4 up. So I think my natural instinct is a survival one
Yes.
that goes, what is in the bushes I can't see? Because I'm not going to walk to that bush and get ambushed. I need to know what's in that bush.
You're so smart.
Which is why I got the book on teenagers before I had them. Because I saw that freaking lion in that bush and I was like, it's you or me, buddy. And I'm going to be prepared. When I get to that bush, I'm going to be prepared. So I'm feeling that way. And I've just started feeling that way since Georgia went to college. And I need to be prepared for what's next, not just in my life, but in my dad's life, in my in-laws' lives, right? Because I'm going to be involved in their aging to some capacity, less so for my in-laws. They have 3 kids, but I'm still going to be in the communication of it.
Oh, yeah.
And I want the knowledge to be able to walk confidently into that phase of life, right?
What to expect when you're aging.
Exactly. Exactly. That's exact. Because I read that book too. You know, I did. Yeah.
And you know, then it took off, right? Then they're like, what to
100%.
expect with a teenager. I think they even came out with that, although I didn't read that one. But yeah, I hear you, and that is so helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course.
I told this to my sister the other day, and she says, "Well, what would you write about?" And I like froze.
But you already have 2 books. You just told me about the 2 classes you teach are books,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, you could just transcribe your lectures in obviously it's not that simple.
No.
But you know what I mean?
No,
You
but-
already have the bones.
Well, not only that, but you know, it's a great time in my career to do that because I kind of know, you know, my perspective on all these things, and it's a function of what I've learned, and it's a function of my experiences.
Yeah.
And if I blend those, then I've got something unique,
Completely.
you know, and
Totally
kind of
agree.
how I look at the world, you know, and earlier in the very beginning, you said, "Oh, this is probably ageist." You said something, you know, well, I'm ageist, that was hard to realize that, like, you know, I teach about aging. I should be the biggest advocate and perfect ager, and I'm not. When I was approaching 50, I was nervous, you know, and I said this when I was giving a lecture at a assisted living facility, and it was a room full of 85-year-olds. And after my lecture, one woman came up and she said, "Honey, life begins at 50. And I just loved that. That could be like the title of the chapter.
Yeah.
You know, combined with my little renegade experience.
Totally.
Yes.
Would love to hear about all of that. And it's the same, life, I feel like 50 is when you start enjoying everything you built in the decades before.
Yes.
You built it, and at 50 you get to enjoy because you know who you are. If you've done the work on yourself,
right,
to try and know who you are, then you do. And then everything is super easy. But no one tells you that when you're 20.
Mm-mm.
And no one tells you that when you're 30 or 40. You only learn it through experience, I think, because there's no resource. There's no written resource or video resource or any kind of resource.
No.
The only resource I got was when I turned 40, my doctor went, "Okay, here's how it works. You're going to gain 10 pounds a year." So if I were you, I'd start working out in a capacity that you can continue through your 80s. Speed walking, light hiking, and really start honing in on your diet because it's going to be 10 pounds a year starting now. And that was the only medical advice. And get your colonoscopy at 50.
Yeah.
That's kind of it.
Did he or she mention anything about menopause?
No.
Yeah. Or reaching your sexual peak in your 40s?
No.
Yeah. There were a few things missing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I know there's a big book that just came out about menopause, and I can't remember the title of it. Someone just gave it to me because I am in menopause. And I was
Me too.
I was like, I think that the medical profession knows nothing about menopause. Nothing whatsoever.
But they know so much more about erectile dysfunction
and prostate problems in general. And I'm like, they know nothing. And I wish there was a book I could give to Bert and go, here's what menopause is. So when I'm crying for no reason, it is medically proven this is my hormones and not that I'm a psychotic person. Because I think sometimes he's so generous and lovely about anything like that, because I'm saying I think this is like menopause. I think what's happening here is not based on anything that's happening. It's just what's happening in my body.
right
So
and how you look at the world and what's happening.
yes. And he's been really great about going, okay, I don't understand this. I'm just going to take your word for it. You know, now in the beginning, he's like, menopause, schmenopause, right? You're just being, moody, bitchy, whatever.
Maybe you should translate for him. Women pause their men in their lives.
I don't think he would like that.
No.
I don't think he'd like
Do
that
you
at
want
all.
me to put you on pause? Because
I know,
men
right?
pause.
Menopause. That
Yes,
is hysterical. I totally will use that. I'm stealing that totally.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think I just got that book because I was like, I don't know why I didn't think, like I've done with everything else in life, I could use a manual for this ambush that's coming.
Yes.
And I never did it for myself for menopause, which is really fascinating. But I have been thinking about the social.
Because you're raising kids, and it's easy to get lost in, dealing with that.
That, and I have no medical problems until this COVID
Ugh.
ever in my whole life. I've
Oh
never
my
had
God.
any issue of any kind. So the the biological piece of menopause really isn't in my wheelhouse. It's the social, emotional, psychological of like, I don't want to be alone. That, what did you call it? Social currency? Capital, social
Mhm.
capital.
Mhm.
That piece I'm very aware of.
Mhm.
But what's going on in my physical body piece was off my radar. So I wasn't prepared because it was off I was going, my boobs are enormous. What is happening? Like I was literally like head scratcher.
But didn't that
What's
happen when
happening?
you got pregnant?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then they went back.
Yeah.
But then like in the past year, they've like tripled. And I'm like, what's happening? Oh yeah, menopause.
Yeah.
Totally. Should have thought about that.
No, it is. It's and I don't know. I find that I've surveyed a couple of friends and they're not like overly enthusiastic about talking about it. I find.
Why?
I know. I don't know.
Happens to
I don't
every
know.
woman.
It happens to every woman. And it's not that it has to be pathologized
No.
or it has to be problematic,
No.
but it is a transition,
Mhm.
and I think it's particularly funny for women our age to have teenage girls
Mhm.
because they're trying to get their period
Yep.
and you're trying to lose yours.
Yeah, totally.
And you've got that mix of hormones,
Uh-huh.
and as you were telling me about, what you've tried to explain to Bert about menopause and hormones. I mean, let's face it, it's not like he hasn't had any practice at this. Dating a woman and having her period once a month alone is an exercise in hormonal adaptation,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So there's that. Then you've been pregnant twice.
Yep.
That's a whole experience,
Yeah.
the before, during, and after.
Mhm.
And then now menopause. And then you throw in there the on average sexual peak in your 40s.
Right. Yeah. And no one tells him any of that.
No.
No.
Because
so
they're
how's he supposed to know?
no.
We know
Yeah.
because we're living it more.
Yeah.
But men, I think, for definitely not all men, but most men relate to women based on their own experience, right? We do too, relate to men based on our own experience to a
Absolutely.
point. But how could I possibly know what's going on for him if his testosterone drops or, I can't.
Oh, right.
I'm
they're
not a man.
they're not walking in a park after 50.
No, they're not.
No. They
And
got their own issues.
completely.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that feels like, but we can't trade pamphlets. Here's my pamphlet on menopause. Let me know if you have questions because I have the same questions probably. I don't know. But it would be helpful, especially if you write this book. It wouldn't be gender specific. It would be about, or maybe it would. I don't know. I'm writing your book for you clearly now, telling you it's not gender
No, I
specific.
think that's a great point. Especially nowadays, it's not really cool to be gender specific.
No, it doesn't. aging is aging.
Yes.
It
Yes.
happens to
I think it's
everybody.
a chapter.
Yeah.
You know, where does this bifurcate?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
And look at it that way.
Yeah, totally.
But the other thing I think that your story and your experience brings up is, when we were younger and our parents were younger and everything, there's this image of like getting married and, you spend, you live happily ever after, as if it's just a static thing and you live happily ever after. Well, nowadays with us living longer, which by the way, since the 1900s, we've gained 30 years in life expectancy.
Jeez.
Yes. So from 40s to the 70s, it's dipped a little with COVID, believe it or not. But anyway, my point is that, when younger people are approaching marriage, this is an evolutionary experience.
Absolutely.
And I don't know that we can do anything any differently other than that, our relationships over time are challenging. But it goes back to what you were saying to write about, right? But you were thinking about it more from like an age, like different ages over time.
Yeah.
But even, our peer relationships, our significant other, and how that unfolds over time and how important it is to grow together. And when you don't versus when you do.
That's so true. I constantly feel so lucky that Bert and I have grown at similar paces.
Absolutely.
We don't grow the same.
Yeah.
One's always ahead of the other or behind, but that we haven't gotten so far ahead or behind that it's caused a big, big problem. It hasn't. We're so lucky because I think that happens so often. Where you get married, in your early 20s, and who I was in my early 20s would not be married to Bert Kreischer. We would never have made it through our 20s. There's no way.
Yeah.
And I think that is real. I don't know why people don't, maybe there is a book about this and I just don't know about it, but how you manage your relationships through those time periods where you're growing, even your friendships, I'm not close with anybody I was in high school with. I'm not close with anybody I'm in college with. I have fond feelings about everybody. I don't have any negative, like I broke ties. There's nothing like that.
Yeah.
But I've evolved out of different interests and different cities and, they're just different. The people I hang on to now are people who have been changing as I'm changing in a similar pace.
Yes.
And that's normal. It's just hard, I think, for the people who feel left behind somehow.
Of course.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to be like, well, what happened? And you don't have the same growth rate. I don't know.
Well, a principle of communication is that the more alike two people are, the better they communicate. Now, what that means to be more alike, it could be same gender, it could be same age, it could be a lot of different possibilities. But that's just like a basic thing about the way we communicate. So it makes sense that it would be harder to keep relationships where you have less in common over time, So I just wanted to mention that. And then also, I might be misquoting, but I think it was Simone de Beauvoir who said that a woman needs 3 men, okay? 1 to lose her virginity, 1 to raise kids with, and 1 to grow old with.
Interesting.
Yeah. Now, obviously, this is just a quote, it's just interesting. But it does speak to the complexity in a super simple way about aging in a relationship.
Right.
And, what it takes. And, no one, my dad, who I don't give a whole lot of credit for having a huge impact on my life, but he did say, when it comes to relationships, they say 50-50, but give 100, or give more. And you'll get back more.
That's very
You may not
true.
get 100%, but you'll get back more.
Yes,
But there's so many, it's so challenging relationships. And that's why I'm so fascinated with studying communication and relationships.
Right. Your value system, I think, has a lot to do too with it, whether or not you have a long time together. If you have a base, Bert and I are very different. like functioning people in the world.
Yes.
But our value systems really line up.
That's
so as much as we ebb and flow out of these other kind of like noisy areas, when you get down to the quiet, it lines up.
wow. Yeah.
So when you can communicate from that quiet place in the bottom, then it clears out a lot of noise. I think that's why we've stayed together so long, because we are very different, and very similar at the base.
And the different, like what you're different in, I would imagine can be very exciting,
Totally.
It gives your world excitement and stimulus,
Yes.
that, there's things that you have to grab and hold onto with the other person. They're challenging you. They're
Yes, that's
taking you
true.
out of your comfort zone.
Yes.
So that's beautiful.
Yes.
And again, like a fascinating thing about relationships.
Yes.
I know, you said, that you have not kept old friends in a universal sense. I happen to still be friends with a girl I met right before kindergarten in New Orleans. Yeah. And we're so different, like she ended up getting married, having 3 kids, staying married. She didn't finish college, and obviously you heard my story.
Yep.
And it's like, how do we connect, And I know we connect on vulnerability.
Uh-huh.
We connect on humor.
Uh-huh.
We laugh so much. She trusts me. I trust her. And I don't know. The rest is like, we love animals. Both of us are animal nuts.
Yeah.
And, we rode horses together and stuff. We like nature. But we are, so different. She did modeling, and I didn't know how to pluck my eyebrows. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yes.
we were just so different.
Yeah.
And so I love that, like I have her in my life, even though we maybe talk twice a year.
Yeah. Yeah. My middle school friend, I have one friend from middle school that I'm still in touch with, and we're the same.
Yeah.
It's like we never left each other, and we're very different. Very
Yes.
different. Same exact scenario.
Yes.
It's just because our value systems are very similar.
Yes.
When you get down to the strip everything away, you get to the core, we're really similar people. So even though it looks different on the outside,
That's a great way to put it.
the inside is the same.
Yes.
So when I figured that out, I think about Bert, I started seeking out friends that I could do that with. Well, what's the core? You may not wear the same clothes I wear. You may not like the same movies I like. You may not eat the same food I like. But at the core, you're compassionate, you're caring, you like to volunteer, you like to give to other people, you're other focused. You have a good sense of humor. You're generous, kind.
Yes.
Authentic.
That is a
Yes.
big one for me.
Yeah, authentic.
Can't stand
Yeah.
in
I
authenticity.
can't deal with it either. Authentic to me looks like danger. Inauthentic.
Oh, yeah.
Inauthentic looks like danger.
Yeah.
It scares me. It doesn't scare me. It unnerves me.
Doesn't
like,
it? Because you don't know
it
what
does.
you're dealing with.
I can't deal with it.
It's so mysterious.
And,
it really is.
I don't even, it's just unnerving. To me, it makes me feel like I'm threatened somehow.
That's a great way to put it.
So I can't deal with it.
Yes.
I don't like it.
Yes.
So yeah, that authenticity. Bert is who he is on stage and off stage. There's not much difference. And my friends are all that way too.
Yeah.
Everybody's the same no matter who they're with or who they're talking to. And that's just, I don't know why you'd want to be any other way. It would be exhausting.
Exhausting. And it's to me, I mean, I would say it's driven by insecurity.
Yeah.
And usually it doesn't end up well because it ends up, you project that inauthenticity onto other people. Like you make up things about them that aren't true.
You're right.
And then, it just goes down from there. So, you're right. I mean, this friend, we have that connection. And what's so cute is when I went through the divorce, she's very supportive and everything. And then when I told her years later that I met Lewis, and she's just kind of like, I don't really know if I like this idea. She goes, I kind of had a vision of you and I in a house together with all our animals. and he's kind of rocking that boat, and I don't really like this.
That's adorable.
Wasn't that cute?
Yes, that's adorable. Aw, that's adorable.
So she had our old lady life all planned out.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. You do have a lot of animals. What do you have?
Well, right now I have the species of cat, parrot, and rodent.
Like a rat?
Not like a rat, a hamster. Like a hamster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're so cute.
Yeah. But in the near past, I've had rabbits and dog.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's it.
No chickens?
No, but I want a chicken. I want pretty much everything, you know. But I have had fish. So I've gotten into fish.
Yeah.
Love that. I even had a crawfish, which ate the fish.
Oh,
and then I
goodness.
got rid of the crawfish. So anyway, that's I think that's all. Oh, I've had a horse.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, when I was in high school. I had 2 horses, but not at the same time.
That's
you know?
cool.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think. I think that's it.
Where'd that come from?
What?
The love of animals.
That's a really good question. I think that that I probably always, I mean, I wanted to be a vet was the first thing that I thought I wanted to be. My dad loved animals. And, you know, I guess he did have a huge impact on me in that way because he just adored them. So there's that. And then I think when I got into horses in 8th grade, and then I just fell head over heels into it. I was around a lot of animals, you know, ducks and chickens and dogs and cats. And I don't know, maybe that's it. Not really birds. But anyway, and so I think that's when I was with animals outdoors a lot. And that really, you know, I think
that's it.
Gave me the basis. And that's the other thing I did coming in. I mean, I did several things, but one of the renegade things was going from having a few pets to having a zoo. So I put literally on my dating profile, like, you know, I have a zoo was like the first sentence. And that was the first or second question Lewis asked. You know, he's like, and other people did too. What do you mean you have a zoo?
Yeah, right.
You know?
That's funny.
Yeah. But look who I'm talking to.
Yeah, I know. I got a couple things here too.
Yeah. So
I just have 3 dogs and 3 cats right now. I used to have 3 chickens, but
aren't they great?
I love them. I miss them. I'm actually thinking sometime in the next maybe year I might get some more. I needed life to settle a little bit when we moved here, and I found a spot in my backyard. I think I'm going to build a really beautiful coop.
This property, I would go ape on having this kind of land.
Well, you know, I can have goats in this yard, but I'm not going to get goats because they would eat everything. But I love goats. I mean, my grandmother
Why
had
can't you
goats.
just put them in a corral, like, you know, a big corral?
Goats get out, man. They're crafty, sneaky little suckers.
Well,
they'll jump out and they'll eat all my hedges, and yeah, goats are really fun. But I don't think I'm quite ready for a goat at this point. But I could have them. My zoning.
You probably could have a horse.
I could have a horse. I could have livestock.
I would go crazy. Yeah. That's like most people dream of like retiring and traveling the world. And I just want to have a farm.
Yeah.
You know, but I kind of have it now. It's just an indoor farm.
An indoor farm.
Yeah.
I know Isla loves your house because she loves all the animals.
Oh my gosh.
I'm so glad our girls are friends. She loves Leanna. She really does. She feels very connected and very close to her. It's really cool. I like their relationship. It's a good one.
Well, likewise. And I loved Isla from the minute I met her. Just really did. I mean, ask her, like, you know, like we just like
clicked.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
She's a good kid.
Yeah, she's a really good kid. Very authentic.
That
very
she is,
sweet.
buddy. She came out of the womb going, "This is me. Good luck changing it." You know, she was born with a mullet. That's all I need to say. She came out with a mullet. I was like, wow, this one's mine. I think that's a full-blown mullet.
Well, how can you be so surprised? I mean, after what you told me about your renegade years and then what I know about Bert from the little I know.
Yeah.
You know, she sounds like the perfect mix of you two.
She is a mix.
The wilder side, you know.
She is a mix. She's way she's she's a gooder girl than I was in a lot of ways at this age. I was lying, sneaking, drinking, sexing, racing cars. I was much rowdier and more rascally. But she's rascally in her own way. But she's not comfortable with that kind of rule breaking. That's not in her. And I was all about it. Bert actually wasn't as much of a rule breaker in high school. He didn't start getting really out there until college, from what I understand. He still broke rules, but I think Isla's pretty straight-laced compared to either one of us.
Well, she's a mix and she's version 2.
She is. She's a great kid.
Yeah.
I love her. I mean, I love Georgia too. They're so different.
See, I haven't met Georgia, but I imagine.
She's here. She's probably still sleeping, but she had some friends over last
the good
night.
old days.
I know, right? Those were the days. Be here. Like you said, be here. Sleep till noon, because it will end. As soon as you have kids, it's over.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
And I love to hear that you said sleep till noon, because like in the South, New Orleans, you were not motivated to go outside. It was too hot and muggy.
Too freaking hot.
Yeah.
Man.
So in the summers, like we would be out late partying and then sleep till noon.
Yep.
And then eat breakfast and watch TV and sort of get awake around 5.
Yep. That's right. Because it's too damn hot. Too damn hot, or too cold. One of the two.
One of the two.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
Well, we should wrap up. We spent 2 hours and 15 minutes.
What were we going to talk about?
I don't know. Were we worried that we'd have anything to talk about? I mean, you come back and talk again about something else. We'd be here all day. That's super fun and awesome and easy. I love that.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I would have enjoyed talking to you without the podcast.
Same.
But this is just like a bonus and,
Well, it's not just a bonus. It's a bonus for us, but it's a gift for people listening, because I feel like the reason I started my podcast was because I wanted to learn out loud, because I'm so lucky. I have so many interesting friends and acquaintances that are just authentic, good people who do good work in this world, whatever that work is. And that all of my friends have been willing to share their stories and life experiences and expertise is a gift to me, because I get it. But I feel and I hope it's a gift to anybody who's listening or watching who might not have the exposure to the types of people that I am exposed to. There are these types of people in every community. And no matter socioeconomically, there are exactly these types of people. But people are stay-at-home moms and are at home all the time by themselves, or people are truck drivers who drive and are isolated and by themselves. And I thought if I could share part of my world that might help somebody else, that would be great. So I can't imagine that our conversation today isn't going to help somebody, or at least have someone go, when is she writing this book? Because I need this book too. I'm so excited when I get an email from someone in their 20s who says, I'm so glad you're talking about this, because this is my future. And I love hearing about it so I can be prepared for it.
Oh, wow.
I love that. I get those emails about everything I've talked about almost, is that I'm so glad you're talking about this, because, in the world of media today, not a lot of people want to hear what a middle-aged mother of 2 that doesn't have a definable occupation has to say about anything. And I do, because I feel like there's so much value in a person who's lived a life, more than a person who has a label for what their job is.
That's so eloquently put.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I've lived a life, and most of my friends have lived a life, no matter what they do for a living. So what I'm interested in is the life experiences and how you've processed them. And what you teach is that it is a life experience, and how you process it, how you communicate through it, how you deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's so valuable to me. And I hope to the people who listen to my podcast too, because that's what I want to know is, what's your life process been and how have you dealt with it? Because we all have a life process and we all deal with it if we can learn to deal with something more effectively, more efficiently, without reacting as strongly, without it being tumultuous, then that's a freaking gift to the world. So that's what you shared with me, and that's what someone else will hear.
Yes.
Something that you said could change somebody for the better.
Yes. Give them a guidepost and a reference point.
Perspective.
And it's interesting that, this was motivated by your interest in hearing about my health and aging area. And one of the pearls that I like to give my students is the next time you meet someone you think is out of your age group, and particularly if they're older, think of them like a treasure chest. Because one thing, life experience increases with age, and wisdom is definitely increasing. If you can get them talking about their lives, you are going to learn so much, so you're doing, one of the pearls of wisdom that, because it's not like, you have to wait till they're 80,
No.
Life is life.
Yes. Life is life. And some people have lived 80 years of life in 25.
There you go.
And so, yeah, I think our stories are balms,
Yes.
They're salves for each other. When everybody has pain and everybody has different levels of struggle in their life. I can't relate to a lot of people's struggles. Like I grew up, not wealthy and blue collar, but I definitely didn't grow up in poverty, and I didn't grow up without, and I can't really one-to-one relate to that, but I can relate to wanting something you can't have in a like base need way. I can find that. I think a lot of people can too. So if we could find just ways that that's why everything's so polarized, is that people refuse to find what we have in common,
Oh, that's so powerful.
It's just what we have in common.
Yes.
We have so much more in common than the opposite. We have so much in common with each other that when we have these conversations with my friend group and with my peer group, I think it just helps us all not feel alone and know that we're all the same at the end of the day.
Right.
And I don't know. That's just what I'd like to leave every day, feeling like I've been my best self, and that in being my best self, hopefully, and everybody should do this. If you're your best self, you inspire the people around you to be their best self. And sometimes knowing that I've had all this bullshit that I've had to get through to get to my best self will help someone who's in the bullshit go, but the best self is coming.
Yes.
Yes. So
hope, giving them hope, compassion, and yet, it's so brave of you and creative of you to have made this happen, like to have all that you just described inside you and then turn it into this podcast, where it's so, we talk about generativity in the class, giving back, and you're not even, old.
Nah, well,
nowhere near. No, I know. Yeah. We're aging.
Yeah.
I don't even like the word old,
Yeah.
But Erik Erikson, a psychologist who developed stages of development, he somehow spent a lot of time with multiple stages, 0 to 6 months, he broke them down. But at 65, it's just one big, I know. And the last thing is like generativity versus, I think, stagnation. And I could get that wrong. Don't quote me. But anyway, it's like, he envisioned that when you're older, your development should be focused on helping others develop. And that's nice. But I just, he's not the only one that did that. You hit like 60, boom, everybody's the same.
Everybody's the same. That's
couldn't
not
be
possible.
More
no, that's just ridiculous. Because my grandparents in their 60s versus 70s versus 80s were completely different human beings. I felt like they were those 3 decades were so drastically different from each other, and not just the cut and dry from 60 to 70, but that general
right
time of life. That whole phase of their life just it just kept morphing into something different, with their level of activity, their level of physical health, their mental, capacity and acuity all changed so much in those 30 years. That's a ridiculous statement. Whoever made it. I don't know who made it, but that's crazy to lump that whole time into one. That's crazy.
But look at all the wisdom you have gleaned from being able to observe in your own family that aging process. You're very lucky.
I'm very lucky.
My last parent died at 75. Yeah. My mom. And that's so young.
Yeah.
So
that's very young.
It's very young.
Well, my Granny Sellers died when she was 100.
Wow.
And then everybody else lasted. None of my grandparents or great grandparents died in their 70s. None of them. They were all in their 80s or 90s. And I had relationships with all of them.
What? This is so amazing.
I love it. So then I go, yeah, I love it. Anyway, we keep talking. We should wrap it up.
Yes.
It was so nice to talk to you.
Likewise.
Thank you so much.
And right back at you.
Yeah.
This was so much fun.
It was.
And look forward to
future chats.
That's right.
Yes.
Yes.
In whatever capacity that may be.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
Have so much fun in Egypt. Oh my God. Have so much fun.
Thank you. I'm trying not to think about like being one of those planes that's over the Atlantic and gets shot out of the sky.
No, don't say that.
No. Because I'm afraid of sharks and
that's your fear? Not that you're falling from the sky?
Pretty much. I think I'd rather just die up there, but don't let me land in the water. I think about Titanic and, this is where my mind goes. Some fluke, with the anniversary of the Pan Am flight.
I know, right?
I know.
We don't need to talk about any of that. It's going to be fine and it's going to be fabulous.
But if anything does, we've had this moment.
Exactly. We had it.
My life is done.
There you go. Except after you write the book.
Yes.
After you write the book.
And I know who's going to be my editor.
Oh, I'm happy to edit. I love editing. It's one of my favorite things to do. I love it.
Yeah, you can make sure that I'm birthing the image that you wanted to see.
I bet you need little to no help at all.
Oh no, I need a lot of help.
I
really had to work on my writing.
You did?
Yeah, I'm a math person, not a writer in that. But I feel like I've gotten there. I'm a lot better.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be easier than you think.
Okay.
I think you already have it all. It's just, pardon the phrase, it's just a vomit.
Yeah.
Right? You just got to vomit it out.
That whole magic process that when something goes from your head to paper, realizing what's flowing out of you.
Yeah.
Or vomiting.
Yeah. You just vomit it. That's the term I use with Bert. Just vomit it out. Oh we'll fix it later. But you can't fix it if you haven't vomited it out. You got to put it out.
That's right.
Just put it on the paper and then you can fix it. But if it's not on the paper, I can't do anything to help you. That's what with Bert. That's how it works with Bert. When he was writing his book, I edited his book. So he would write it, he would vomit it and give it to me. And then I would just mark it up and then he'd go back and fix it. Wow. So easy.
Great.
It was easy.
Oh my gosh.
It was easy for him too, because he was like, oh, all I gotta do is put it on the paper. I can do that. And then we'll just fix it. We'll fix it together. Oh, and then we'll turn it in.
That's so
great.
Cool.
Yeah.
That you worked together on that.
We did. It was really fun. I couldn't wait for him to finish a chapter because then I'd get my hands on it.
Yeah.
I'm really good at language and written language.
Oh.
Love it. But he's very much into repeating the word that 8 times in a sentence. That guy that went to the place that got that thing that guy gave me that thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, you get one that. After that, you got to put another word in place of that. Okay. You have one that.
Get me started. Okay. Verb, forms of the verb be. I hate it in writing.
Yeah.
I hate wordiness. I hate there is.
Yeah.
I hate, I like vivid verbs. Oh, passive voice. I just like, these are the things that over and over and over I tell my students.
Yeah.
It's painful.
You'll be fine. You'll be better at it than you think. Well, thank you so much.
All right. Do I have to press anything?
No. Just go like this.